A drop of blood falls onto the barren earth. A ragged breath fades into silence. In the great swamp, the heart of the dark continent, life and death dance on a razor's edge. Here, power is not granted, it must be seized. With fangs, claws, sweat, and absolute ruthlessness. Water is the currency, muscle is the law, and intellect is the only thing preventing a creature from becoming another's meal. There are no peace treaties. There is no room for mercy. In the natural world's Game of Thrones, there are only two outcomes: become the ruler or rot into dust. This is the arena of the strongest, where crowns are forged in blood, empires rise from violence, and every throne harbors the seeds of its own destruction. Tucked away amid the arid stretches of the wasteland, the great swamp emerges as an oasis of life. A complex network of rivers and fertile mud pools turns this place into the heart of the kingdom. Any creature that controls the water source here holds the key to ruling the entire land. The cool waters attract millions of giant herbivores migrating from the parched plains. And following close on their heels are the planet's greatest predatory machines. But this abundance is actually a trap. It creates an enclosed arena, a crucible, where the most powerful clans must clash daily to fight for every square foot of territory. For the denizens of the Great Swamp, this is an endless battle of life and death. The concept of fairness is crushed beneath the heavy footsteps of the food chain. Life is never meant for the weak. Supreme rule belongs solely to the strongest, who can tear out their opponent's throat, or the smartest, who knows how to manipulate the shadows for their own gain. No dynasty lasts forever. Every morning, as the sun crests the horizon, a plot for subversion begins anew. This is a story of primal power, how predators seize it, how they protect it, and the bloody price they must pay when the crown falls. At the center of the Great Swamp, where churning rivers converge, the Marsh dynasty reigns at its absolute zenith. Leading this invincible army is not an imposing male, but Athena, a true queen. A war machine forged through countless battles. Athena is a master at hunting the African buffalo, a beast dubbed the Black Death of the savanna. A full-grown bull weighs nearly 2,200 pounds, bearing a pair of curved, steel-like horns, ready to impale and toss any predator into the air. Taking down such a massive creature is not a hunt. It is brutal, hand-to-hand combat. Athena's strength lies in the rippling muscles beneath her scarred golden coat, her extreme recklessness, and her unparalleled leadership of the pride. She commands her lionesses with strict discipline. Every hunt is a seamlessly coordinated tactic. One creates a diversion, another flanks to cut off the escape route, and Athena is always the one who charges into the blind spot, delivering the finishing blow with a fatal bite that crushes the windpipe, completely cutting off the opponent's air supply. She risks her life every day, not for glory, but for the grumbling stomachs of the cubs waiting in the den. If Athena is the sword and the strategy, then Titan, the alpha male, is the shield and the fury. Titan's dark black mane is the most dazzling sign of a male in his prime. A testament to the unparalleled strength of the tyrant. Titan's sole duty is to patrol the invisible borders and annihilate any threats, especially their mortal enemies, the hyenas. Titan is the greatest nightmare of the scavengers. He does not ward off enemies with a roar. He enforces his power by charging straight into the middle of their clan. Using his weight of over 550 pounds to knock down and snap his opponent's spine in a single bite. To hold on to the crown, violence is the only effective language. However, the throne always comes with cruelty and paranoia. The rule of power for male lions leaves no room for sharing. Titan does not tolerate any competition existing within his territory, even if it is his own flesh and blood. When the young males, his very own sons, grow up and begin to sprout their first manes, the tyrant's dominant instinct immediately awakens. In Titan's eyes, they are no longer his children. They are future usurpers. The internal purge begins without mercy. Titan frantically attacks, bites, and chases his sons out of the pride, forcing them into the unknown wilderness. That is the price of power. To maintain an exclusive Iron Dynasty, the king must destroy his own legacy with his own hands. But the brilliant sun of the Great Swamp does not warm everyone. Behind the splendor of the Marsh dynasty lies the indelible scar of betrayal. Nyra was once Titan's fierce queen, a respected warrior who once shared the rule of the central region. In the world, past glories are meaningless. When Athena rose with superior strength, cunning, and violence, Nyra lost her footing and was stripped of her position. Not only losing the privilege of controlling the water source, she and her cubs were pushed all the way back to the northern frontier, an arid wasteland, where water puddles evaporate under the blazing sun and large herds rarely set foot. For lions, this banishment is tantamount to a death sentence. Lions are predators that rely on the strength of the pride. Being isolated and deprived of support from other females means losing all tactical advantages in hunts, while simultaneously turning the cubs into easy prey for hyenas and leopards. But the primal survival instinct coursing through her veins forced Nyra to stand firm. Refusing to die, the overthrown queen turned the cruelty of this land into a life or death training ground. At the frontier, Nyra patiently stalks the small, agile prey she once ignored in the central region. She turns every hardship into a rigorous lesson for her young cubs. They are forced to learn how to press their bellies flat against the ground. The harshness wears down their bodies, but forges their claws to be sharper than ever before. Tragedy struck once again when the 6 young princes, the young male lions carrying the hope of reviving Nyra's dynasty, were sniffed out by Titan. A relentless pursuit ensued, and her 6 sons were completely banished from the territory by the tyrant, driven straight into the death sentence of the wasteland. Watching her sons slip slowly toward death, Naira was not allowed to sink into panic. Resilience, her sharpest weapon, rose again. Holding tightly onto her daughters and the remaining cubs, Naira gritted her teeth to endure, finding every way to keep the next generation from starving in the Deadlands. She silently maintained an invisible existence, training a fresh and vicious new generation of hunters, quietly lurking and counting down the time. The patience of a beast backed into a corner is more ruthless than any storm. While lions represent authority and physical dominance, hyenas are the embodiment of scheming brains and sophisticated organizational skills. Erasing the prejudices of a species known only for cowardly scavenging, malice. The matriarch of the Great Swamp's largest hyena clan is a master of survival manipulation tactics. Malice did not seize power through sheer size. She rules and operates an entire empire of dozens of members through razor-sharp intelligence. A complex acoustic communication system equivalent to language, and a tight network of internal alliances. While Athena and Titan wring out every drop of sweat and blood in their struggles with buffalo, Malice hides in the thorny bushes, coldly observing. The survival philosophy of the hyena clan is highly pragmatic. Why risk your life to bring down prey when you can use pack tactics to steal the fruits of another's labor? Malice is a ruthless strategist. Her sharp, cold eyes track every breath, every habit of the lion dynasty. She knows the exact moment the lionesses are exhausted, lying flat on the grass with bleeding wounds after a battle with a buffalo. She also knows precisely when Titan leaves to patrol the territory, leaving the cubs and females in a state without their protective shield. When the time is ripe, Malice does not launch a frontal assault. Instead, she utilizes the art of psychological warfare and pack guerrilla tactics. She commands her army of dozens of hyenas to form a closed perimeter around a lone lioness with a kill. The hyena clan constantly harasses, taking cheap bites at the flanks and heels, striking and retreating. They use chilling cackles and prolonged maniacal howls to crush the opponent's will to fight. The immense pressure from all directions eventually wears down the lion's endurance completely, forcing them to growl bitterly and abandon the tender carcass. Malice nourishes her massive clan, using the very exhaustion of her enemies. This matriarch's patience conceals a deep-seated ambition. Malice understands the cruel laws of the Great Swamp. Every empire, no matter how heavily armored, will one day crack. When disease, fatal wounds, or the barrenness of the weather shatters the lion's defense line, Malice and her army of shadows will immediately swarm in. They will not just come to fight over leftover bones. But to overthrow the old order and establish a new empire driven by ruthlessness, pack discipline, and superior intelligence. Far from the loud and bloody clashes on the sun-drenched plains, hiding among the towering ancient tree canopies along the riverbanks, there is a killer silently observing the whole world below. That is Ghost, a female leopard, the embodiment of elegance and invisible death. If Athena is a general commanding an army, and Malice is a strategist manipulating the masses, then Ghost is a lone assassin. She was born to operate alone. The instinct and physique of leopards do not allow them to engage in direct confrontations, relying on sheer mass to overpower lions or hyenas. Instead, Ghost survives by turning herself into a phantom. Her tawny coat, dotted with pitch-black rosettes, blends perfectly into the shattered sun rays filtering through the leaves. She moves across rough branches without making the slightest sound. Patiently stalking for hours, and swoops down to finish off her prey as fast as a lightning bolt splitting the air. Efficient, precise, and virtually undetectable. But even an invisible phantom has a fatal weakness. For Ghost, it is her maternal instinct. Raising cubs as a leopard is one of nature's most cruel challenges, with a pre-adulthood mortality rate of over 60%. Ghost recently endured agonizing pain when she witnessed her own fragile daughter fall into the bone-crushing jaws of a hungry hyena clan. Now, All her efforts and vigilance are focused on protecting the only surviving soul. Solitude brings suffocating pressure. Every time Ghost slithers down to the ground to hunt, her young cub on the tree fork is left completely unprotected. Every decision is a life or death gamble. Go hunting to fill the empty stomachs of mother and child, or stay perched on the high branches to keep the cub from being torn apart by wild dogs and hyenas. When the dry season begins to stretch its parched tentacles to choke the great swamp, the large herds leave, and hunger strikes to tear at every creature. Facing the brink of starvation, Ghost's survival instinct shatters all limits. Abandoning the safe territory on the high-reaching branches, the proud assassin grits her teeth and steps down into the muddy, thick pools boiling under the scorching sun. She discovers giant catfish struggling desperately in the shallow mud. With paws bearing curved claws, normally used only to hook into an antelope's throat. In another corner of the swamp, the law of survival takes on a completely contrasting form. African wild dogs are creatures with small, fragile builds. Always becoming targets for eradication by large prides of lions and hyena clans. Due to the instinct to eliminate competitors, they are eternal refugees, constantly on the move across the vast savannas. Remus and Lyra are the alpha pair leading the pale pack. A tiny pack of wild dogs with emaciated bodies that have just silently intruded into the fringes of the lion dynasty's territory. They do not crave the ultimate throne or bloody domination. They only wearyingly search for an abandoned dirt burrow, safe enough to give birth and maintain their fragile bloodline. The strength of the pale pack does not lie in massive size, muscle mass, or bone-crushing bite force. It lies in absolute cohesion. No predatory species in Africa cares for each other with such devotion as wild dogs. Before every vital hunt, they perform an incredibly intense greeting ritual. Rubbing against each other and emitting high-pitched squeaks to channel energy and bolster the fighting spirit of the whole pack. When a hunt concludes, selfishness is entirely eliminated. Instead of fighting and tearing at the food, the healthy ones bring back the meat in their stomachs, carefully regurgitating the freshly hunted meat to care for the injured, the crippled, or the pups waiting deep in the den. Every breath, every heartbeat is dedicated to the survival of the collective. The small individuals unite into a rhythmic hunting machine. Capable of running and chasing relentlessly for miles until the prey collapses from exhaustion. But fate rarely tolerates the underdogs. The secret den of the Pale Pack is eventually sniffed out by Malice's elite patrol. An aggressive, bulky clan of hyenas moves in to surround them, completely overwhelming them in numbers. The natural survival instinct of wild dogs is to run as fast as possible from larger enemies. But today, with tiny lives trembling and whimpering deep beneath the soil, they decide to stand their ground. Remus and Lyra block the den's entrance, baring their teeth and growling, their fur standing on end. With frantic bravery, flawless covering tactics, and lightning-fast movement speed, the wild dog pack creates a defensive barricade of sharp flesh. They continuously bite at the flanks, nip at the tails, strike at blind spots, retreat, and then lunge forward to attack again. They create tightly calculated chaos, causing the bulky hyenas to become confused, stumble, and panic. The tenacity of loyalty breaks the fighting spirit of the scavengers, forcing the hyena clan to turn tail and flee. In that moment, coated in dust and blood, the power of the pack triumphed over the cruel disparity in size. In the Harsh Kingdom, the most terrifying opponent has no claws or bone-crushing jaws. The most brutal force is the dry season. The sunlight strikes down like flaming spears, shattering all the peace of the great swamp. The rivers that once churned with life now evaporate, shrinking into depleted mud puddles, exposing cracked, blistering patches of sand. The lush green grasslands wither into ash. The depletion of water triggers a vital ecological event, the Great Migration. Millions of herbivores, herds of wildebeests, zebras, and buffaloes are forced to turn their backs on the swamp, desperately moving northward, kicking up massive clouds of dust in search of life. The abundance vanishes, leaving behind an empty land as hunger begins to claw at every stomach lining. The food chain breaks, and the power structure of the Great Swamp begins to fracture violently. The exhaustion of the land is always a narrow window of opportunity for opportunists to seize the throne. Scenting the fragility of the Marsh dynasty, two strange male lions, nomadic wanderers without a territory, their bodies covered in battle scars and brimming with extreme aggression, quietly move in. Realizing the tyrant Titan is out patrolling the far reaches of the borders, they immediately charge straight into the heart of the swamp, ruthlessly challenging Athena's rule. The dominant instinct of lions brings a cruel rule. If these nomads successfully seize the territory and the females, their first act will be to mercilessly bite to death all of Athena's cubs, to wipe out the old bloodline. Forcing the lionesses into a new reproductive cycle carrying their own genes. Athena, the queen who has never tasted defeat in buffalo hunts, is now pushed into the darkest corner of sovereignty. Lacking the shield named Titan, she must face the most grueling decision: bow in submission to the usurpers and watch her children be torn apart, or fight to the death until the last drop of blood to protect her legacy. While the center of the kingdom writhes in despair, the wheel of fate suddenly reverses at the northern frontier. The massive migration of the herbivore herds, leaving the parched swamp, inadvertently pours straight into Naira's desolate territory. Suddenly, billowing clouds of dust, carrying thousands of lives blazing with vitality, appear before the eyes of the exiled queen. Naira's daughters and young lions, previously pushed to the absolute edge of their endurance in starvation, now unleash their deadly sharpness. They launch into the hunt with the flawless coordination and bloodthirst of those who have tasted the breath of death. Stomachs bulge, muscles recover and ripple once more. From the ashes of abandonment, the exiled pride drains the lifeblood of the migration to be reborn. Standing atop a rocky hill, Naira stretches, turning her cold and fiery eyes toward the center of the great swamp, which is drowning in chaos. Her time has come. Just as the throne of the Marsh dynasty seems on the verge of total collapse under the claws of the aggressive nomads, a deep, thudding sound, as if tearing through space itself, echoes from the distant horizon. A cloud of red dust swirls blindly in the wind. Titan has returned. There is no probing or hesitation. The tyrant charges into the battle to protect his kingship with terrifying primal fury. the massive muscle mass of the males collides violently, creating cracking sounds and ear-splitting roars. The battle is incredibly swift, but its level of violence is enough to remind every creature in the swamp why Titan has held the throne for so long. The nomads are struck down, their flesh shredded, and they are forced to run for their lives from the territory with deep, gaping wounds. Athena and her cubs are pulled back from the grim Reaper's scythe by mere inches. The bloody order is restored. The throne is temporarily secure. But deep beneath the cracked mud of the kingdom, all living things understand one truth. This victory is but a ragged breath sandwiched between endless wars. Borders in this wilderness are never fixed. They are constantly erased and redrawn in fresh blood. In the north, Naira and her exiled army are growing stronger by the day, their eyes fixed on the central region, waiting for the moment to dethrone the king. In the dense thickets, Malice and her massive hyena clan continue to sharpen their fangs and claws, coldly waiting for the day Titan's bones and sinews grow weary. High up on the towering branches, the phantom ghost continues to lurk alone, fighting to protect the survival of the next generation. And on the blistering plains, Remus and Lyra's resilient pack of wild dogs continues their relentless race for survival against countless greater threats. Death is always just one heartbeat away from life. In this land, there are no heroes possessing absolute justice, nor are there purely evil villains. There is only instinct, uncompromising will, and a fierce desire to survive. The bite force of the lion, the scheming brain of the hyena, the perfect invisibility of the leopard, or the self-sacrificing spirit of the wild dog pack. All are life and death cards dealt evenly by nature upon a giant chessboard. There will be no everlasting peace on this continent. There will always be more brutal droughts, more crazed challengers, and endless wars to find the final creature that earns the right to stand tall. The wheel of wild power spins on, primal, magnificent, and forever ignorant of mercy.